Well, you guys probably couldn't see any of that, but the scroll played and it was awesome. Anyway.
I saw the link earlier.
Oh, did yeah? Okay. I was just recording that. So session one. I can already call it session one. Session 1 point. Continuing on.
Last time was session 0.5.
Well, so now we're on one. When we last left our heroes, we were aboard KWENN Station and somewhat split up. You guys hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making sure because the video just already locked. All right. We were already somewhat split up. So we had backup was over in, he was with a doc, I'm spacing on his name. He was with the noble. Errol. Thank you. Good grief. It's terrible. He was with Errol. And they were just coming back along the docking ring, so to speak, where all the various ships were docked. And one thing I should have pointed out, and I didn't at the time, backup, was that although there wasn't anybody who seemed to be paying attention to you while you were looking over the area, one thing that you did notice about the docking ring is that there was a higher percentage than you would expect of people, of ships in this area, because these are smaller, like transports and tramp freighters, that kind of stuff. And there was a higher percentage than you would expect of the ready for trouble, ready to bring trouble kind of ships, as opposed to simply prepared for something to go wrong kind of ships. There's certainly freighters around, but a lot of there's sort of a slang certainly in the mercenary circles for something called a gunship, which is basically just a freighter that's lost most of its cargo carrying capacity and is just for carrying people around and shooting the crap out of stuff. So more heavily armored, more beat up as a general rule. And hang on just 1 second. I don't want to do that over here. Oh, I think it's going to be stupid. All right, well, I'm going to close that then. So slightly more heavily armored, more look like they've been in more fights. There are way more guns on them. And just, you wouldn't want to see, there's a lot of these kind of ships that would immediately raise a couple red flags if you were looking at them through a viewport. Seems like a high percentage. Now, granted, you're on the edge of Hutt space, so you don't honestly know whether or not this is unusual, but the kind of places where you're seeing a percentage this high usually would be more like in a smuggler's den or a pirate's cove or something like that, and not in what is ostensibly a public station that can be used by anybody.
It's the sort of people who would be worried about bounty hunters and aren't right now.
Right. And in this...
Or bounty hunters.
Right, exactly. Really over-prepared for bounty hunters. So we've got KWENN Station. I'm going to drop this in and make it bigger because it desperately needs to be bigger. Actually found a picture of KWENN Station, and since it already had thought bubbles or speech bubbles on it, I decided to turn them into a summary of the aspects that we have currently active that you guys should be aware of in KWENN Station. So we've got crawling with Imperials, kind of. Hutt cartel security forces. They are technically the people who run the station and maintain law and order. I think if you guys have ever seen The Expanse, the appropriate line here is there isn't law on KWENN Station, there's police. So, and that's it's kind of how that works. And very busy, certainly, maybe even busier than normal. There's a lot of ships here. So that's what we've got going on here. You and Errol were off doing that thing, coming back to the other ship. Alir was on the ship and roaming willy-nilly through the networks of the hub. And Hakana was with, did I get that right? No. And Calvin had just gotten rid of their sort of pay the gas bills kind of shipment, and were headed in the general direction of the pickup that you guys need to do, food supplies for the rebellion. And you guys all got the signal on the green channel that says, you know, agent in need of pickup, things are amiss, all that kind of good stuff. So, trying to think who we should begin with. Okay, so I'm going to actually start with Alir, who's on the ship, because anything that you do, you can pretty much do instantly, unless you want, well, not instantly, more quickly than walking around the station. So, what are you doing? Oh, and you also triangulated things, or at least were able to nail down that the signal was actually coming from the station itself, or getting relayed through the station itself. So, what do you do, Alir?
Well, I'm curious to see what the situation is down there. Are there any cameras around that are hooked into a network?
Like in the dry dock area, definitely. You can quickly bring up. Let me grab one for you here. You can quickly bring up a dry dock picture, at least from the external. Let me just drop that in there, and it's going to take a little bit to load, but hopefully it won't be too huge. Oh, there we go. Lovely. So you quickly pull up a security shot of the dry dock. You know, this isn't showing, and check me, I want to make sure you can see that, but this isn't showing the activity. What you're seeing here in addition to this is you've got stormtrooper squads that are have set up checkpoints near the ship and checking various cameras. The lifts that come down into the dry dock area are being not super aggressively patrolled, but certainly watched. There's a checkpoint there, but they're kind of laying. But they don't let it, nobody dawdles. Now, it isn't just Imperial people. So you've got people in the incredibly low-browed, you know, Imperial caps. So you've got you got the ship's crew, you got stormtroopers, but you also have station crew that are bringing in supplies. So, I mean, because the purpose of the dry dock is partly to do the repairs, but also some of the supplies need to be here. And based on what records you already pulled up out of the dry dock maintenance information, you know that the thing, and Kelvin, you had already, you two had talked about this already. Apparently, this thing has been doing patrols for pirates in a nearby sector. And although it took quite a few ships out, it took some damage to its hyperdrive, and it's getting that worked on, which I believe, if I remember correctly, Kelvin, you had estimated that to probably take 3 days, unless they like basically worked round the clock. It would take at least 3 days to pull it and repair it and get it back online again. So, as far as getting any security shots inside, that's not likely. What are you watching for? Are you looking for anything specific? Are you looking for for somebody with a rebellion sticker on their backpack to come running out of the ship and head your way, or maybe not?
I'm looking to see the forces that are around where the signal are coming from, the signal is coming from.
Well, the signal relayed through the station, it would seem to have originated, I mean, based on this, it's either somebody standing in the dry dock or somebody in the ship. Now, this particular shot makes the dry dock or the ship not look particularly big. That would be erroneous. This place is huge. So this is a This is a very big shot. And it's hard to say because it could be, I guess it could be an undercover stormtrooper, somebody, you know, as a stormtrooper. It could be somebody as an Imperial. So they could be right there in the dry dock. The kind of message that came out, well, no, actually, why don't you give me a clever roll? You can pull it up on your character sheet and
I can do that.
click your clever. Oh, that's, wow. Okay. You check the message again, and you find a second layer of data, and attached to that is a holographic image of the individual who sent it. So let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick. There we go. How about that? You relay that to everybody's hand terminal so they can get a look at it. So somebody dressed in Imperial sort of ensign guard, if you had to guess ensign. Well, no, you're the one with the encyclopedic knowledge. So yeah, that would indicate an ensign. Not a lieutenant, but definitely not a stormtrooper. Somebody who's used to working on the ships. Not a very senior ensign, certainly, but that's who you're looking for. If you want, you can scour the video footage and see if you can see her in amongst the people in a dry dock. And if she's not there, she's probably on the ship. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be careful. It's going to take some time, so we're going to check and see. What do you relay to everybody else? And we're going to switch over to other people and see what's happening over there.
I send them the picture of the ensign.
Okay.
Relay that over.
And the
so
name,
that they know who they're looking for.
yeah, the name that goes along with that is a. Hang on for just a second. I want to make sure that this thing doesn't do something stupid. The name that goes along with that is Dana Foss, Phos. So I'm trying to pull this up in another window as well without having it also share my audio and video in that window as well, which is super fun. So just give me a moment because it's being slow. Anyway, backup, since you're effectively acting on your own, you have Errol with you, but he's sort of when you point out the thing about all the potentially bounty hunter ships, he suddenly gets sort of distracted. He definitely that seems to have put him off his game a lot more than you were anticipating. So we're just gonna you kind of end up taking the lead a little bit while he checks over his shoulder repeatedly.
Okay. I'm going to encourage him to get back to the ship.
Okay.
And if I get this transmission on my comm unit, I will see if I can track this person down on foot.
Yeah, back to the ship. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. And he kind of heads off that way at a bit of a hurt, like that fast walk of I'm not hurrying, but I'm kind of hurrying sort of look. So yeah, he heads off that way. Where are you headed? The layout of the ship above you, upper levels above you, would be public areas, hostels, hotels, casinos, entertainment places, stuff like that, public promenades, shops. You're on the dock area, and then below that, you've got the dry dock would be down from you, basically.
Okay. If I've been given enough information to know that I should head to the dry dock, if that's where we think that the signal came from, which is what I was hearing earlier, then I will try to sneak down there unobtrusively and just sort of blend in. Given that sort of I'm Hutt security vibe without actually saying so.
Okay. How are you dressed? I'm curious. You are familiar with certainly this kind of culture. That's certainly something you've been dealing with for years now.
The rule of Star Wars that I've learned is that if you are dressed in a shapeless brown cloak with a hood, no one will notice you.
Possibly
true.
Possibly true. Yes. Um,
I sort of picture wearing, I want to say like, not necessarily rags, but that sort of raggedy, put together, lots of scarves, good coverage sort of garb, that sort of thing that you can, conceal a lot of stuff in.
right.
So he would look like kind of a raggedy desert dweller, that sort of look.
Okay. All right. Um, do you want to? What you're describing to me is totally fine. What you're describing to me, I'm not sure if it's as easy to pass off as like Hutt security for a space station. If it were Hutt security on some shithole like Tatooine, you'd be fine. But if you're doing Hutt security here, you might need like a jacket, vest, some kind of something that trims things up, looks a little bit more spacer culture kind of thing. Do you want to try to acquire something like that or pass it off as you go? Either way works. I just want to know how you're coming at it.
If my understanding of the approach is that would be the most sensible course of action, then I'll do that.
Okay.
It's whatever is purely pragmatic.
Okay. In that case, how's your sneaky?
Sneaky is not bad. It's +2. Careful is my peak approach, but yeah.
Right up. I think sneaky is good because you're trying to come up. First, you're trying to acquire something fairly quickly, and secondly, you're trying to pass yourself off. So I think sneaky sounds pretty good. Why don't we have a test of that and see how we're looking? And if not, I mean, if you really want to, you could. Now, if you want to, basically what you're doing is you're setting up a barrier to see how you're setting up the strength of the con, so to speak, for anybody who's going to check you on that. I'll give you a free invoke off of Adar. God, I'm terrible with his name tonight. Just before he leaves, you can say, wait, give me your coat. Just I'll give it back. Just lend me your coat. Because he's got something that you can totally make work, and he's all right. And his take on this is, am I less noticeable this way? And he hands it to you, and you're like, sure. Not really why I was asking. So he heads off towards the ship. You shoulder your way into this thing, and we'll give you effectively a 3 for that. So you get like a little free evoke on his coat, which is certainly trim and clean and not what people would immediately think of. We have a box being drawn up there. I love it. Okay, so you're heading down, and you can get into the lifts, really no problem. And once you're down out of the lifts in the dry dock, lots of activity. I'm not sure how familiar you are with well, wait a second, because I got to remember, you're also a trooper. You wouldn't have worked with the Victory class Star Destroyers before, but you would at least have a pretty good idea of what the strength of the things are in terms of their complement. They've got at least three squads with stormtroopers out here, so you're talking 60 troopers in various patrol clumps, like groups of 10. Elevators that are going up into the ship and milling around the elevator. There's another half a squad that was up at the top of the lift, or they probably have a squad at each one of the lifts just to kind of, keep an eye on people that could at the in way, and certainly at the out they do. Personally that this is Star Destroyer keeps like 2,000 troopers on it. So they're not, they've got way more that could be pulled out, but they're definitely not doing, at this time at least, they're not doing shore leave for anybody. Everyone's staying pretty close to home. Otherwise, the station really would be crawling with Imperials, because that's just 2,000 troopers, let alone the people that are actually manning the ship, which is another, something like 3,000 or 4,000. It's a big ship. So what do you do? The troopers don't say anything. You kind of give them the nod, like, I'm totally supposed to be here. The local sheriff swagger. Move this stuff around. What do you? Where do you go? What do you do?
Give me a second.
All right. I'm going to duck them. While you thinking about that, I'm going to check in with Hakara and Kelvin. Oh my God, my mental blocks are coming. I knew it was
almost like there's a character section on the right sidebar there.
Right now. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Now I have it up. Thank you for the reminder. I was looking at the wrong, like a useless window. So, Akana, Kelvin, what are you guys doing? And you might be muted still, Margie. Or she might have stepped away.
Maybe, maybe not.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, but before you do that, let me give you this one.
All right, you go ahead.
If I can slave my communicator back so that Illyra gets a feed of what I see, and can relay to the there, I will do that.
Yeah, you can probably. I mean, you can you can do a little bit of it. You don't want to be walking around. Well, you don't want to be walking around like this, and you don't necessarily have like a. You don't have a. What you need is is a helmet cam, and you think which is about the first. It's the first time you've had that thought this week, but it's certainly not the first time you've had that thought, because you're used to that. You're used to that kind of equipment. But you can definitely shoot a little bit of video over there and throw it back to her. So she's getting yet another camera feed. Security looks pretty tight. And I don't know, are the other guys getting in this, or you're just giving it back to Alir?
I'm giving it back to her so that everyone else can kind of hook into what's going on here.
Okay.
Directly, and whether they want to come down here, intervene or whatever. So it's just to let give everyone else something to hook into.
Okay.
So go ahead with 10.
It looks like they are. Catherine stepped away, so I'm not sure what's going on there. So we'll just keep going for just a second. It looks like what they're doing is the locals are coming in with.
Here.
Oh, you are? Okay, great.
Yeah.
The locals are coming in with supplies and equipment. They're being channeled into the cargo area, but it doesn't look like they're going anywhere further into the ship. And you can see they're basically shuttling them up into the. They sort of bring them in on pallets, and they take them up on a big platform that sort of they tractor beam up into the big hangar that's up underneath there. But it doesn't look like they go anywhere other than the hangar/cargo space area before they're brought back down again. So there's sort of a continual cycle of stuff going. The security here is pretty solid, but you imagine the real wall, if you actually wanted to get into the ship, would be between. I'm passing myself off as a local. I've gotten into the cargo bay. How do I get into the rest of the ship? That's where the firewall is at. The big, scary, angry Balrog kind of firewall is probably there. That's the hurdle. All right. So, am I hearing you, Margie? You can unmute yourself if you're muted. Did you mute your mic?
No, she just sent a message in the chat room.
Oh.
I can't hear.
Oh, yuck. That's not good.
So,
you can't.
Really quick while we're feeling this, I'll be right back.
All right. Wait. Okay. Can't hear me now. Is that maybe? Oh, she can't hear me, so I can't ask a question.
Sorry, you could type it.
Yeah, I'm doing that now. So, oh, she's turning it off and turning it back on again. How about now? It doesn't look like she's hearing anything else. That's okay. If we need to, we can go with the other thing. If we get another. Now, what's weird is.
Hello.
Yeah, see.
Okay, I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Wacky. Okay. Well, never mind then.
I unplugged and plugged back in.
Of course.
So.
Of course.
Huzzah.
Shut it off. Turn it off and turn it back on again. Perfect. Okay. So to catch you back up, because that's kind of critical, we've got you caught all the stuff with Catherine. Backup has gone down below into the dry dock. He got himself. He borrowed. I got to pull up the other bar now. He grabbed Errol's jacket, passed himself off as local security, and is just sort of wandering around the dry dock like he deserves to be there. He's taken a few video shots that he's relayed back to Alir. So Alir, you have a little bit more intel there, and he's taken what little he's been able to mutter back over comms is basically that the locals are being allowed into the main hangar of the Star Destroyer to drop stuff off and then shuttled back out again. But he's not seeing anybody that looks like that picture yet, and neither has Catherine yet. Neither has Alir yet. What, and you and Calvin need to work out what you're going to do. I mean, you could get your supplies while you have the opportunity, or you could try something else, or just figure out what it is you need to do. You could theoretically try another signal back on the same channel, but there's no guarantee that that's going to do any good.
Well, what I was sorry about that.
That's okay.
What I was wanting to do is to try and triangulate between my location and the ship's location, our ship's location, and see if I can do some refining of the signal location based on where I am, where the others are, and where the ship is.
Okay. Yes. You won't even need to check on that. It's definitely coming from the dry dock area because
Noise, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Silly me. So it's definitely, you don't even need to roll for this because it's where the ship is about halfway up the side of the station. You guys are up in the more public areas. And in both cases, the signal's coming from below and then being relayed. So it's definitely coming from the dry dock area. And this is literally the only ship that's currently in dry dock. So it's definitely somebody on the ship or in the dry dock. And so far, you're not seeing anybody else in there. Kelvin, what are you thinking? I mean, you also pretty much know kind of what the routine is here for this kind of a dry dock situation. So you've got that knowledge to bring to bear as well.
Right. I'm wondering if we can pick up our cargo and then use some of it as a means of being less conspicuous at heading down towards the dry dock area.
Sure. Why don't you give me... Why don't you roll your clever for me? And I'm just doing this. It's a flat target number that I'm looking for to kind of create an advantage that you guys can use going forward if you're working on something to get into this station.
Can you remind me how to
get
into the
so
character sheet?
In the sidebar up on the top, there should be the second button up at the top should be journal. And then from there, you can click on your character sheet, open up your person, and then click on character sheet, and you can click on the stat.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you wanted a what?
I think clever. It sounds, I like the idea of using it as a cover, so we'll go with clever. And what'd you get for your clever? A 3. Wow, you guys are nailing these rolls.
Well, clever is my 2, so.
Excellent. Kelvin, while she sort of takes, I mean, she's a she's a tramp freighter captain, so this stuff is sort of autopilot for her. While she's doing this, and you're kind of, you know, helping her push the pallet, what are you doing? Like while she's negotiating and doing the call signs and getting somebody to load up the pallet for you and all that other kind of stuff. What do you, the hover cart?
I think right now I'm going to be on the comms with Alir.
Okay.
And I'm going to try and work out, do we want to get everybody off of the Star Destroyer?
Everybody?
I can probably figure out a way to get a lot of people off of there.
I was gonna say that's 6,000 people, but that's a lot of. I mean, even if you got most of them off, if you got it down to a skeleton crew,
that's what emergency evacuation protocols are for.
I mean, the option's certainly there. You could theoretically do it. It's not going to be easy because they're not in friendly territory. So they're not, even if you got them off, odds are you're not going to get them anywhere but in the dry dock area. But it's certainly an option that's there. I guess you guys need to figure it out and figure out what you want to do.
So yeah, what do you guys think?
Compare notes. What do you think is going? I mean, I'm curious. Let's go around. What do you guys, even if you're not voicing it, what are you guys thinking is happening here? I mean,
I'm guessing there's someone who found something very critical either on board this ship or in its cargo and is signaling for help to try to deal with a scary situation.
Sounds reasonable. Could also be somebody who is like a deep cover spy who thinks that their cover might get blown too.
See if they're on the, potentially on the run. You are also spotting backup in this. I'm just going to do, well, maybe I'm not going to, but you are also, backup is spotting some activity that isn't local security guys and isn't people bringing equipment down and isn't Imperials. There are definitely some unsavory people with guns down here. You're seeing bounty hunters, and they're not going on the ship. They're coming off.
Okay. Being sent out to find somebody? Like the person we're trying to meet up with?
Maybe. It doesn't look like it. They're not like coming off like dun, 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 dun. They're coming off like you know, they're walking off with one of the lieutenants off the ship and, you know, doing a couple of things, but there's not a lot of urgency to what's going on here.
They're coming off after a successful mission is what it sounds like.
Could be. Could be, or they could, yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like they're moving with a purpose, but they're not moving like they're chasing somebody. So I don't, whatever that, but it definitely, and it's not, you know, actually while you're there, and you are possibly getting to the point back up where you're maybe wearing out your welcome after you've circled a couple of times, there's going to be local law enforcement versus Imperial law enforcement jurisdiction heads butting. You are seeing a couple more of those types showing up on the lifts and being turned away by the stormtroopers. Like, no. And they're pointing past, like pointing at the ship and like gesturing, like, and you know, too far away to catch that stuff, but the guys are like, and just are gesturing him back onto the lifts and sending him. Those guys are not happy. But they're, at the same token, the stormtroopers are not paying any attention to the ones that are already here and on the way, kind of on the way out. So
invited versus uninvited bounty hunters,
I guess. Akana and Kelvin. So you guys are, Kelvin's sort of keeping sort of a low grade conversation going here. It's like, well, we can try and evacuate the whole thing and see what's going on. We can flood the whole thing and see if that gives them the opportunity to get off the ship. We can, I mean, if you had some uniforms, you might be able to get for you. You're pretty sure you could probably fake your way onto the ship, but again, it's how do you get uniforms? The biggest trick, which backup has already spotted and you completely concur with, is getting on into the hangars. Going to be not going to be difficult. Getting from the hangar into any other part of the ship is going to be ridiculously difficult. Without.
Your audio is breaking up, by the way.
Oh, is it? Hang on. Hopefully it's not too bad. But I figure where I'm getting that bounce back. I keep getting that. So the biggest difficulty is going to be getting from the hangar to the rest of the ship. That's what it boils down to. That's the tough part. Actually, so the lieutenant is talking with continues to talk with these guys. They're sort of walking across, and I say they're walking across the dry dock that's so big that's going to take forever. How long do you want to stretch out your welcome backup? I mean, do you want to have a conversation with these troopers, or you want to go before they get a chance to take offense?
I'm feeling like we got to move on this somehow soon. If my feeling is that we're going to need trooper armor to get on board the ship, which seems likely, I'm guessing I'm going to want some help from my crew.
Right.
So I'll see if I can get a few of the stormtroopers to maybe come away from the group and get them isolated.
Okay. Oh, I just had a wonderful thought here. Let me. Well, there are troopers in the rest of the station, like on the exits from the upper level lifts and stuff. So you wouldn't necessarily have to acquire. You don't have to mug anybody here. You could do it in other portions of the station, which may be better for you.
That would be perfectly fine. Yeah, I'll go with whatever's safest.
And are there any other are there any other ships besides the one that's here in dry dock?
There's lots of ships in the station. This is the only one that's currently using the dry dock.
No, I meant
other Imperial ships?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was what I was looking for.
There. I don't know. Alir should probably check that. There wouldn't be not in the dry dock. There may be a couple in dock. You could probably Alir. You could do a quick check. There's probably a couple of haulers, but there wouldn't nothing. Well, I don't know. Would there be?
Well, how about this? If there were other Imperial ships, what would that mean for us?
Well, I think her thinking is there maybe another Imperial ship with with a complement of stormtroopers on it, like a smaller squad, because you got 2,000 dudes on here. The upside of there being 2,000 people, 2,000 troopers, and 4,000 guys on the ship is there's a ton of traffic. So if somebody sees somebody under an Imperial cap that they don't recognize, that's not really that remarkable, since you're talking about a small city that's flying around here. There's going to be people that you don't know. Alir can check and see. The problem is there's going to be some Imperial ships. Whether or not they have a complement of troopers or the right kind of uniforms and stuff like that is a whole another question to answer. But you guys, if you decide that that's the way you want to go, maybe mugging. Yeah, I mean, certainly not mugging somebody from the Imperial Star Destroyer is a good way to keep the Imperial Star Destroyer from. And I should stop saying Imperial Star Destroyer because it's actually a victory class. It's not as big. The Imperial is ridiculous. It's a great way of keeping the alerts low because you're not actually attacking or mugging anybody from that actual ship. And I'm going to
Well, and if some of those crew have been pulled off to help with whatever is going on down in the dry dock, then we might actually be able to get farther into one of the other ships and potentially be able to, actually find something out about, the ship in dry dock.
Yep.
True. Okay. So backup, are you retreating?
I'm going to retreat for now. I will try to find some stormtroopers.
Okay.
I will relay to these guys, I think we need to get on board the ship, and I'm getting us some armor.
Okay.
And give them a rendezvous point somewhere near the dry dock.
So there is a, I'm going to close down the security camera thing so it's not actually doing very much. We'll leave her out of here as well. I'm going to leave the information for the station up since that's kind of handy to have. And there is a Gazanti class Imperial cruiser, Imperial transport. I shouldn't say cruiser, it's not that big. In dock. And just for the sake of visuals, let me yank that up. Conveniently, I've got about a bunch of them.
While you're doing that, I have a random idea for both Ilir and Kelvin to work on.
Okay.
Part of backup cybernetics can be something like a multi-purpose computer attachment, similar to what astromech droids have. You know, Kelvin can install it, and Ilir can do remote hacking through it or something like that. That would be amusing.
So like the computers, like the spike, the idea of there being like a, anyway, yeah, something like that would be great. Okay, there we go. One of these guys.
Compared to the station, it's huge. Look at that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Let me resize it. But yeah, it comes with, this one's not going to have, it's going to have like one stormtrooper squad on it if it has one. And you need to get cameras on it. It's going to be a really good tell to see what kind of troops it's got on it if you can see whether or not it's actually carrying TIE fighters. It isn't to say there wouldn't be troops on it if there aren't TIE fighters, but if there are, there definitely are going to be. The question is whether or not it's just hauling stuff. The cool thing about the Gazanti is the inside is basically modular, so you might have a section in there that's basically 2 places for somebody to bunk down and the rest of it's cargo space, and the next one might be nothing but trooper bunks and the machine shop and a bunch of other stuff like that. So it's really it's kind of hard to tell from the outside what kind of ship you're going to see on the inside because it's a highly modular thing. It's one of the reasons it's kind of popular. You can actually back up. That you can actually, rather than mounting the 4 TIE fighters underneath, you can actually dump the TIE fighters and use it to drop 2 AT-ATs on the ground, already manned. They just attach underneath the wings there and come down low and drop them and off they go again. So it's a very modular kind of drop ship kind of thing. There may even be a couple of those on the Victory. On the actual name of the ship is the Relentless, the Star Destroyer. So you got one of those on station, and it's definitely Imperial. So
cool.
That's out there, and I'm going to, because I feel bad about this timing, I'm going to actually slide one more Fate chip over to backup just because of the bad timing of this. So you are out and it's kind of heading towards the ship ring so you can get a better sense of that Gazanti. And Akana, let me run down through this. Akana and Kelvin are pretty much back to the ship. Backup's headed towards the ship docking ring to kind of and headed now in this direction of the docking berth for the Gazanti. I got 4. And you're right about there when Alir's like, I think I'm seeing our agent coming off the ship, like right now. And you can kind of see she's got like cap down and is just like, weaving her way through and stopping, kind of doing this, the awkward social dance around the guy who's bringing the crates and is, kind of, she's got a clipboard, so her cover is very solid. She's got a clipboard and walking like she knows where she's going, but she's definitely moving with some speed towards the lifts. The stormtroopers aren't paying any attention to her. The locals aren't paying any attention to her. You see the lieutenant who's standing with the bounty hunters pay attention to her in a very, very kind of startled, like, what are you even doing out here kind of way. And you can't quite read that expression because you're looking through security cams or something, but he's not just like, what are you doing out here? He recognizes this person, and it's not a good thing. He's motioning. You don't have sound on these, but he's motioning and pointing at the lifts as she's stepping into it, and the troopers are like kind of looking around, like you know, one of them actually does the TK-427, like taps his helmet thing, and he just like, oh, you know, you idiots kind of hand gesture, and the three bounty hunters that he's standing with kind of turn. He quickly explains, and the four of them head towards one of the other lifts. So your girl is on the run.
Alir, can you tell where that what deck that lift is going to?
Ooh. How's your quick, Alir? Let's just move to a different screen here while I'm thinking of it.
So, Catherine, how's your quick?
Oh, wait, what am I
Are you
doing?
muted?
No, she's not responding yet.
Yeah.
Did you guys switch over to the other screen, the new screen?
Yep.
I see our agent 3 out of 7 ovals towards us. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. That's better. It's interesting if I can make it switch to I can make everybody else switch, but I don't actually switch, which is I can automatically switch everybody, but then I have to go, and I would like to also go. Well, it's because I can switch through different screens and stuff like that. Okay, so
wait, what is this extra fate point for, by the way?
that's for me kind of having her come off the ship right after you'd left, as opposed to being there right on the dry dock, because I felt kind of bad about that.
Yeah, take it back. Hey, give me a fate point when I do something interesting. How about that?
All right. I was treating it like a bad timing compel.
It didn't make my story any worse.
Okay.
So.
All right. I'll steal it, and I'll have 4 fate points. So we'll do it that way. All right. I think I can close that back down there. It doesn't really matter how many I have, since, you know, whatever. Okay. So what the situation that we have right now is we've got the girl is in the wind. Our agent is in the wind. We have I think Alir trying to possibly sort out where she's going, and I'm going to have that be a quick thing, because the thing is, she's in a lift, so you need to be able to do this fairly quickly. Catherine, do you remember how to do the roll thing? All right. I think you're muted. Are you muted? I'm not hearing you.
Jeez.
Yeah,
I can't hear you.
Nope, can't hear you, sweetie.
Did you mute your mic? Move over your little face thingy and see if the mic is crossed out.
Now?
Yeah, there we go.
Much better.
Yay.
Okay.
All right.
That's a good roll.
That's a good roll?
That's a great roll.
Holy buckets. So if you mouse over that number, you can see that is all pluses. That is a +4 roll in addition to your skill of 2 for a damn 6. Okay then. So what we're gonna do with
Find her?
Did you find?
But the scale doesn't go up past 5.
Yes, it does. Okay, so I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna roll, but I don't think I'm gonna roll that good. Well, the bounty hunters are actually good at chasing people, so we're gonna. I come up with a 3. You still succeed with style, which allows for a couple different things. What I did was so at the very least you get to move her at least one circle. So this is a abstract representation of the chase. Obviously, what you want to do is get her down to that rebel icon. You can at least move her 1. You can theoretically move her 2, or you have the option of putting some sort of aspect, creating some sort of barrier for her pursuers or something like that. So functionally, well, no, there's a couple different things you can do there. So you could do something like jam up their lift, send the lift the wrong direction, get on their channel and give them false information, a couple different things. Or you could simply, I don't know, you could do a couple. You can get on the mic, you can get on the speaker inside of the lift that she's in and tell her where to get off and tell her who to look for, which would simply move things forward, 2 spaces and get you that much closer to that kind of stuff. What do you think you want to do, Alir? Because you nailed it. That was a huge, huge roll.
I think having her or contacting her would be better, because that moves her closer and it also lets her know that people are here.
Yeah, she's not just trying to. Yeah, she's not just trying to like find a safe house up in the hostile area and hope that somebody eventually gets. Because the odds that there's actually going to be somebody to receive the signal on this station is impossibly slim. I mean, there's obviously that's not going to happen, except that it totally did happen. So, okay, so you kind of you figure out, it's like, do you know where she's at? Yeah, I know where she's at. She's on. Oh, look at that! I can do an emergency broadcast. Oh, hey, open up that speaker. Agent Foss, So, what do you say? What do you? You have the speaker open and you crack. You see her react in like the little security camera that's pointed down from above to the crackle of the speaker. So, what do you say?
Agent Foss, we got your message. We are here to help.
Oh, okay. You're here? You're on the station.
Yes.
That's
very fortunate.
That's where should I go? And who? No, I don't need to know who this is. It's a bad idea. Where do you want me to go?
Try to get to where are we?
I was gonna say where are
You're on.
the backup's still down there. Where am I?
Backup.
Where is
No,
everybody else?
backup is headed for the docking. Was headed for the docking ring anyway. He was headed towards kind of where the Gazanti freighter's at. The actual ship, the KISS is at what was it, docking bay 48, 47, 47.
47.
Of course, 47. And that's where Kelvin and Akana are at, and Alir, for all intents and purposes. And to be perfectly honest, backup is one cross the battlefield sprint from being there too. So, or he can meet up, or he can play interference, or you guys can both, multiple people can. It's literally a good shove will put the supplies up into the ship, so you're pretty much good to go.
I like the interference version. I have a very specific idea of how I would interfere with her pursuers.
Excellent. Okay, so you tell her which bay to go toward?
Head towards docking bay 47.
On the docking ring. You have a ship here? Okay, yes. She's just astonished. Like, the odds of this are just...
May the force be with you.
Every other time this scenario's ever run, I'm dead by this point in time. I'm just a mate. No, I'm kidding. Anyway. So she absolutely, and you see her kind of shuck her hat So and kind of tousle her hair up and everything like that. She looks a little bit less like an Imperial at that point. She starts undoing her over jacket. So and yeah, she'll do that. She'll undo her over jacket, toss that thing in the lift as well. So she's down to just like sort of like a uniform shirt that she unbuttons at the collar and has the hat off and undoes, takes her hair down. So she looks a little bit less Imperial and takes off at that ground eating run. And since Backup already has a plan for his interference, let's hear what that is. She's heading this way and you're heading that way.
So I'm assuming from the lieutenant's reaction that him and a squad are probably coming up the lift as well.
It looked at the time, and what Alir relays to you is that he's like, the squad looked like they were like, "Are we coming with?" And he motioned you back out. So it's the lieutenant and 3 bounty hunters, and you saw these guys. You've got a Trandoshan, probably a Trandoshan, a wiry little woman in like padded blaster armor, and who apparently has like a love affair with grenades, and one dude in straight up Mando armor. So, and if you're any kind of read of people, probably the dude who's in charge. So
I want them to be coming up the lift, find this jacket that she has discarded, kind of folded over itself. The lieutenant reaches down to unfold it, and there's a brace of thermal detonators waiting for him in there.
Oh, okay. So
it's not going to kill him. The bounty hunters will pull him back and disengage the lift and drop it down to avoid the explosion, but that will slow them down.
Okay. So as soon as you would have had to have been moving for this thermal detonators, probably go with grenades because we haven't had thermal detonators written down anywhere, but grenades are fine too.
That's fine.
That's fine.
I've got a stunt specifically for this scenario. So
oh, right. That's right. You've got your stuff. I forgot about that. Never mind. You've got a couple of thermal detonators on you. I forgot that you've got that stunt. Thank you for reminding me because
I would have booted up a fate point.
I was going to say letting you magically have a thermal detonator is a bad precedent to set in session 1.
No, that's what fate points
but you don't magically have them. You have them because you have a stunt, and stunts are fine. So you basically, as soon as you hear that she's headed for the lift, you start heading back toward the lift, basically at a sprint, because otherwise you're not gonna be there at time. And I'm gonna give me just one moment here while I yank a couple of pictures up here so we have them for reference. As it's being slow. Okay. Maybe they're. All right. Get that guy. And that guy. And that guy. I'm assuming you guys all know what somebody in Mandalorian bounty hunter armor looks like, right? We've seen Boba Fett. Imagine, kind of that. So that's kind of who we have here, plus the dude in Mando armor. It's like red and brown. It's not the Boba Fett colors. It's like a tan sort of color. Anyway, all right. So that's just mental images there for everybody. And you head towards that. You're basically coming at a sprint. She's getting her instructions. She's coming up the lift. She steps out and is headed past. And, the camera shot is from the inside of the lift as she's leaving. And just as the door is about ready to close, we see Backup's metal hand like stop it. And it rebounds back off of that. And he looks around and he sees because he's like, where can I do this? And he sees that she left the clothes. And you see the first smile on Backup's face because that's perfect. So you kind of, you flip the thing over and but you kind of cinch the jacket up a little bit. So it's kind of holding him tight. and you got to have your foot back up there, and you step back out of the thing, let the thing go, and sort of just casually make your way in that general direction. But the door's still open, and as you're walking away, and we're still looking back at the lift doors, we see the next lift over open, and the lieutenant, of course, comes rushing out. The bounty hunters come out like they're actually prepared for problem. The lieutenant comes out like he's looking for somebody to arrest. And there's troopers in the area, but not nearby. I wonder what we are doing here in terms of your roll. I want you to roll something because I want to see how well this pushes.
Flashy, since it's kind of shock and awe.
I was sort of going for sneaky. It's basically an ambush.
Yeah, I can. Oh yeah, you're right. I can go with that. And if you're comfortable with that, flashy is kind of if you're trying to get everybody to pay attention to everybody. And it's kind of funny. We don't have anybody who's like got sneaky or quick as their top thing, but we do have some people we have a lot of people with sneaky as their second. Yeah. Like they have a lot of people with sneaky at 2. Nobody's sneaky at 3, but a lot of people are like, I'm not bad at sneaky.
I think sneaky is kind of a baseline thing that you just need in a campaign. Sort of.
It depends.
But do we have anybody who's careful?
Yeah.
We actually have 2 carefuls. I think when we have one.
That's ridiculous.
Oh. What did you? Because that's a pretty bad. Oh, that's all minuses. Would you like to spend a fate point to just re-roll because that would be the easiest thing to do?
Yeah, I just did that.
All right.
See, that's better.
I can accept that. Now the fate point to re-roll, but what are we applying to this?
I am invoking speak softly and carry a big blaster.
Of course you are. Of course you are. I love that. Do you want to punch it up at all? Because I'm going to be rolling to oppose this thing in terms of keeping her moving any closer towards the ship or anything like that. And
Well, I can spend fate points as needed after I see.
Excellent point. Excellent point. All right. So let me. I'm going to.
It's going to be a reroll, but after that,
Sure. Yeah, we can always invoke something else for this. I'm going to. I'm rolling with the. Am I rolling with the lieutenant's skills, or am I? I think I'm going to. No, the lieutenant wouldn't have noticed the lift. The bounty hunters did. So I'm rolling with my little bounty hunter's ability to hunt stuff, which is conveniently not terrible. And find my little roller button here. Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's going to move. So quite far ahead of you, you can sort of see Agent Foss headed towards the ship, but a good 100 meters ahead of you. You see her turn at the crump of the grenades going off. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, do you give her a little motion like just keep we're all fine here, you just keep, or are you just not even paying any?
I like to think that by the time she looks back, that when they go off, that I'm not nowhere in sight. But
well,
she must be, yeah.
I'm thinking of it as sort of like if you guys are both headed back towards the ship, you're sort of following roughly the same path. But if you're more going off at an angle so you can parallel these hunters and
much, yeah.
continue to. All right.
This isn't over. I may need to take them out.
Okay.
If necessary, I may need even
sure.
to stay behind, deal with them. Backup's prepared for that.
So she's not in line of. You're not in line of sight of her looking back. You see her. You can still see her, but you can see her glance back. But then she doesn't even continue on. Yeah, one of them like checks the thing, takes their rifle and kind of, flips the clothing and stuff like that. Sees the the detonators. They don't even really, because they're, they've had grenades thrown at them before. They don't really panic. As such, they both just kind of go like this. But the blast through the doors as the door is closing, it's sort of a kind of a shape charge out through that, like, does knock the lieutenant flat on his face. as he's turning around. They're like, okay, get down. And he's like, what? Doesn't take him out or anything like that, but it definitely lays him out flat, kind of skidding on the floor. Not that you would have probably seen that, but
it's still good for the camera.
You're good. Yeah, it's good for the camera. You're going to get to replay that from the security footage later. Alir's in the ship going, yes. Also, that's the last signal that you get from the security camera in the elevator, and probably the last signal anybody will ever get from the security camera in the elevator. I'm going to roll for those guys because they're at least one of, well, I'm going to roll for their leader guy to see if he can move Dana back the other way, because you guys are on the docking ring level, and it doesn't take much of a genius to say if somebody's on the run and they're on the docking ring level, they might be going for one of the ships. So maybe we just head straight for the closest spot on the ring. Oh! Okay. That was a very good roll. And how are we opposing that? How are we opposing it? Who wants to roll against this guy? See how much of a dent they can take out of this. And I'm curious how also, but
I want to give someone else a shot, but if nobody
Yeah.
else steps up, I'll volunteer.
Well, I think I have an idea.
Okay. So Alir is relaying this. Alir, you can see from some of the other security stuff that the guy in the Mando armor is basically like, you know, motioning. He motions the other two bounty hunters, for all intents and purposes, straight in the direction of where Dana's going, and because it's the shortest route to the ring. It's not necessarily the shortest route to your ship, but it's the shortest route to the ring, and also the direction she went. And they take off at a fast trot. I'm moving her. Well, we'll see where we move her, if we move her. Then he kind of turns and hauls Lieutenant up, not particularly kindly. You can relay that information. Thoughts? And I mean, are you going to protocol them to death, Mike?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
No, I was thinking, you know, while I'm, because since it sounds like we're bugging out here, I would probably be trying to get like, undocking permission and all that stuff, and perhaps, pass on word that, some Imperials were causing some trouble in the docking ring. There might have been something with an explosion that I saw. And
bounty hunters.
Yeah,
we
and
involved in it, because
maybe we can get some of those, Hutt police,
Well, I mean, there was an explosion that went off, so it is possible to cause a little bit of chaos by sort of, setting up some sort of station alarm or something like that. And the channels for that. You just need to get to a white courtesy phone, and well, the equivalent, obviously.
Turn the fire extinguishers on.
There's bad radiation reactor leak. Very, very, very dangerous. You need to lock down. Yeah. All right. Why don't you well, I like that. And since it is forceful, and what do you have like a thing for forceful stuff, don't you?
Yeah, it's when I use bureaucracy and rules, and quoting rules, regulations, and bureaucracy.
Okay. So you get somebody on, you basically open up sort of the public or the emergency channel for the Hutt station. I am going to, there's probably going to be an invoke here of the Hutt security system that's going to be working against you, because just because you called the emergency line doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get through. But let's start with your roll and see where we're at.
I want to pitch a scenario for Mike and see what you think about this.
All right.
I would like to say that a bunch of the stuff on the station, the safety features, have been shut down. There's brawls, and there's duels, and there's blaster fire.
Yeah.
There's open freedom. There's all this unsafe stuff that, we could close security doors. We could activate fire suppression systems. We could do all this great stuff that would help us if those systems were turned back on in accordance with regulation.
You just need to figure out.
Okay.
It's just just figuring out how to actually get to that stuff that's the main problem, and accessing it. So you almost get back into the ship and like drop into a seat next to wherever Alir is sitting and go, okay, can you get me to the security hookups? Is that what you're doing, or are you trying to do it from the actual ship itself? Hello.
Yeah, I think it's more calling into those guys and being like, hey, just giving them the rundown of,
Okay. Yeah,
hey, we've
because
got explosions going on here. Do you guys even look at at this stuff? What's going on here?
flipping this stuff on is the hacker solution. But what you need to do, you need to interact with people to really browbeat them into some sort of action. Right. Gotcha. Okay. Give me a roll, and what you're rolling would be your forceful. Is your forceful a 3? Or is it with
No, my forceful is 2.
Okay, so but you're adding 2 to it, so you're basically rolling +4. That's very good. Now I am with my evil GM fate point here. Going to did I do that right? It's weird. I don't have it. Oh no, I don't want to. I don't want to steal Dave's. Oh, I see what happened. Dave. I was about to steal one of Dave's fate points. I should just. Okay, so I'm going to use one of my evil GM dice to invoke. If you recall, and I'm going to just switch this back over here real quick so that we can remember it. One of the aspects on the station is Hutt cartel security forces, and I'm really going in heavy on the air quotes on that. That's the main thing, is because the security is kind of bad. So I'm going to it doesn't really matter mechanically what I'm doing. So I'm pushing you back down to a 3. But what do you have anything you want to counter that with?
Well,
because I would really like to move her back down the chase bar farther than she currently is. Because
you probably would. So
because you're mean.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, because I don't want to give you success with style. I will give you success, just not success with style.
So if you let me invoke, I'm going to get a success with style, because that'll push you down to a 3, and I've got a 6. But do you have something you want to throw back at me in terms of one of your
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and invoke the not what I meant to do. The by the books combat engineer.
Okay. Or you could go with your trouble. You might as well. I mean.
Oh yeah, the regulation. Yeah, I forget about that because it's a trouble.
Yeah, it's a trouble. You could. I mean, you may be the first person and possibly the last person who actually gets to positively invoke a trouble. So cleanliness.
No. Everything can be invoked positively and negatively.
People, but like you say, people don't think about invoking the cleanliness. Okay, so you go ahead and toss a fate point up there on the board, and I'll eat that thing. That'll at least keep me away from a successful style. But we're going to move Agent Foss back a notch as the bounty hunters close in, and we're going to get that fate point off of there. And then we will quickly catch Dave up on how things are going. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, so we investigated the station a bit, and since you were, whoa,
sorry,
I like that.
My phone.
Okay, so you and Backup were headed kind of back towards the ship, and while Backup was checking to make sure you guys weren't watched when you were picking up your information, he also pointed out there were quite a lot of, for all intents and purposes, bounty hunter ships docked in the docking ring. And the idea of there being a lot of bounty hunters around seemed to distract you quite a bit. And seeing that, Backup was like, why don't you just head back to the ship and make sure that intel's back there? You're like, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, get out of the docking ring. That's a really good idea. And he borrowed, before you walked off, he borrowed your jacket so that he could kind of cover up his somewhat scruffy, he's switching from scruffy Hutt bodyguard on a desert planet to scruffy Hutt security guy on a space station by pulling your jacket over there. He then rode the lift down to the dry dock so he could take a look at the ship, the Star Destroyer that's down there, which Alir was also checking out with the security cameras. He took a look around there, saw the activity, got a general idea of how difficult it would be to actually get on the ship, checked Alir, and thanks to a suggestion from Akana, decided to look around to see if there were any other Imperial ships docked with the station. There is a Gazanti freighter that's another Imperial ship. So theoretically, you could even acquire some Imperial garb there that would let you get on the Imperial Star Destroyer. So Backup kind of pulled out of there before the Stormtrooper started to notice that he was lingering. And he was most of the way back to the ship, which Akana and Kelvin were also back toward, when Alir actually saw the agent, whose picture is here on the chase bar, exiting the ship, the Star Destroyer, and getting noticed on her way like into the lifts by one of the Imperial lieutenants, who's currently having a conversation with three bounty hunters. That apparently there was quite a few bounty hunters that were on the ship and are now leaving, and he was talking with three of them. So they gave pursuit. Alir hacked into the security feed camera and speaker inside of the lift and told Agent Foss that you guys were on station, that friendlies were around, and where to go. She shucked her jacket and her hat, dumped them into the lift so that she could be a little bit less noticeable in a crowd, left the lift almost as backup at a dead run was getting back to the lift. So she's leaving, he's clawing the door back open and concealing a couple of grenades inside, or thermal detonators inside of her clothes that she shucked in the bottom of the thing. He left. As the bounty hunters are coming out, they check the lift, and the grenade goes off and knocks the Imperial officer flat on his back. And now at least two of the bounty hunters, the male Trandoshan and the female human there, are giving chase, while the third bounty hunter, who's I didn't provide a picture for because he basically looks like he's in Mandalorian battle armor, is pulling the lieutenant up and apparently giving orders on his helmet thing. So we have the agent hurrying without trying to look like she's hurrying towards the ship. Kelvin's currently on the horn with the security forces of the station, trying to get more security stuff online so they, there's been an explosion. Close your fire doors. The fire doors are offline. Well, get them back online, and regulations, blah, 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 for any space station where the Imperials are at. And he's kind of making himself sound like an official person because that's sort of how he always sounds. He's doing that, and the bounty hunters are in pursuit. And backup is sort of shadowing the entire procession, looking for his next opening to cause havoc amongst these pursuers. And that's kind of where we are. You are, for all intents and purposes, on the ship somewhere and can go racing back out of the ship to do something. But before that, I'm going to see what Akana thinks she's going to be doing. Possibly heating up the ship and getting ready for an immediate departure.
You think? You think? Quickly making sure that the doors are closed behind the food that we just brought on, and hopping in the pilot seat and basically ready to leave as soon as the last foot hits the deck.
Okay.
And also looking to see if there's some way I can, looking to see what the space around us is looking like, if ships are, kind of moving into that, preparing to try and prevent somebody from leaving format.
I like that. Why don't you give me, actually, I'm not even going to make you roll for this. What you do notice about that, in terms of ships leaving and stuff, is that there have been a number of ships departed just in the last hour. None of them are lingering outside of your departure gate or anything like that. They all took off. If you actually want to figure out like if they have anything in common, because it does seem like a high amount of, there's a lot of traffic in the area, but for 7 to like leave like that in such short order seems a little bit odd. You could probably check that out. You'd need to roll for something like that, but okay. Why don't you give me a let's say clever, while you're warming up your ship and all that kind of stuff. This won't move Dana one way or the other, but it is useful information. And there's the chat button, so I'll switch back over there.
Wait,
Clever
no,
2.
where am I?
You just got to scroll down a little bit. It doesn't scroll very well sometimes. if you're not actually on that bar, it doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do.
So hopefully clever enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that should be absolutely fine. Yeah, 7 ships departed, and all of them, every single one of them is showing a destination of, give me a, okay, this would be a, yeah, I don't, no, because you travel around a lot. You maybe heard it. I don't know. You have to tell me whether or not you've actually heard of this dank, dark spot on the universe before. All 7 ships logged a destination of Tatooine, some planet named Tatooine. You have to tell me whether or not you've actually heard of that. And all of them have, like, all of the ships have almost what you would consider, given your background and your culture, stereotypical names of people who are looking for trouble. It's like the Smoking Blaster, the Long Shot, the Idiot's Array.
Well, if I don't, I'm sure that Captain Wikipedia over here does.
Okay, yeah, okay. Have you guys ever heard of Tatooine? And you hear from down below, if there's a bright spot in the universe, that's the planet it's furthest from. You've actually heard of it? No, that's just the first line in the entry on the... Actually, all it says in Wikipedia is mostly harmless. No, I'm kidding.
Probably anybody who knows the criminal underworld would know where Jabba's palace is.
Sure. Well, it's... Yeah, Jabba's like the most probably the Hutt with the biggest influence who isn't in Hutt space. So I don't know how much. Well,
I've heard it possesses a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Backup would have heard of it. Tatooine is actually kind of in the neighborhood of Naboo. It's not exactly in the same sector, but it's close.
Heard of it when I get back to the ship, but I'm not running anymore.
Yeah, Backup would have heard of it because he does merc work for these kind of, or has done merc work for these kind of people. I'm not sure that Akana would be the kind of place that she'd sort of avoid because it's a little bit more. She's a little bit more of a legit trader. One second, I just threw a can in the wrong place here.
No eating the pull tabs.
All right. Errol, for the purposes of helping your wayward agent closer to the ship, do you have any thoughts on how you could help her along or raise some interference for her pursuers or anything of that nature?
So just to clarify, she is headed back towards us.
She's on the run and she's been told to head for berth 47. So yes.
Okay. There you go.
Having exited the lift, she headed for the closest route between the lifts and the docking ring, which is not necessarily the straightest line to your ship, but it is what it is.
How close are the 2 pursuing back?
They're closing in because they're running and she's not. She's trying not to draw too much attention to herself because hopefully she'll be a little bit harder to spot in the crowd. These people, the bounty hunters, only got a quick look at her while she was wearing an Imperial cap and uniform. Her hair's down now, the cap's gone, so theoretically she's going to be a little bit harder for them to spot. Catherine, you have completely lost track of the 3rd bounty hunter. You don't know where she's at. The lieutenant guy is basically just running, kind of a limp run, but he's running after the bounty hunter. So you don't know where the guy in the Mando armor headed, or you lost him off cameras, and you're not seeing him on any other cameras right now either, unless you want to go looking. And Margie, you're talking and I can't hear you. Did I mute you by accident?
I was just suggesting that Dave mute in case he's the cause of the feedback now that I'm muted.
Are you guys getting feedback?
Okay. You're sounding a bit
echoey?
Pixelated.
Oh. That might just be I got a lot of data happening here because I've got like 2 of these
Yeah,
windows.
I think it's your circuit, not something on this end.
Let me.
Because I'm only seeing your avatar, not your video.
All right, I'm going to close that and see if it gets any better. I don't really need that one. How's that? Any better? I'm fine on my end, and I'm the one that's recording, so I'm going to look fabulous. I don't know what you know. Okay, this is actually interesting to me because I'm getting a general idea of how much space I actually need to have for everybody. Dave, any thoughts?
Yeah, my immediate thought is heading to intercept her. Not so much. Yeah, heading towards her to intercept and either shadow, depending on the situation when I get to her, either shadow or join with her if it looks like that would help her with her disguise, or lay down cover fire if she's being more hotly pursued.
Agent Foss, pleasure to meet you. My name is Errol. Please move this way. We'll be boarding and taking off shortly. Do you have any drink preferences? All right. Why don't you give me a quick roll then? Because you're going to be moving with a quickness.
Okay. I did not get my sheet pulled up.
So if you go to that tab over there on the side.
Yep. I'm pulling that up.
Right.
And character sheet. And did you say quick?
Quick. Oh dear.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, hello, quick. What's your quick look like? Ooh.
Ooh. The crowds are moving heavily against me as I try to make my way towards Agent Foss.
All right, let's see what the roll. And I forgot something here.
Evidently, everybody else has spotted the bounty hunters and is moving away from them.
Catherine had an amazing roll. Who was it that had like the all minuses? Was that you, Mike?
No, that was
I got that.
Was that you? Was that? Oh, but you re-rolled that. Right. Never mind. All right. So a thing that I do when you guys, if you either do all +4, like you get all pluses or all minuses, is I give you a fate card. Now the fate cards are just, and Catherine, you can kind of look at that. You should be able to look at it and see what it is in your hand there, so to speak, and see what the card is. So here's what this. What's that?
It wasn't me who got the all minus.
No, you got the all.
You got the all plus.
You got the all pluses. So you've got this. What basically, whenever you get an all plus, whenever you get an all minus, I'll give you a card. It doesn't matter what the card is, necessarily. It can be fun if it's high or low. But basically, you can use that card whenever you want to, either to swap in for somebody else. So look and see what the value on it is. And you can use that card whenever you want to swap in for literally anybody else's roll. Whether it's a friend or an enemy or whatever, you can just set it there and say, I've got that. And I'm just sort of sitting around there. So treat that as no, he doesn't get all pluses. He gets a 0 or whatever the card is. I don't know what the card is. And I don't know that it's really easy for me to see what the card is, so it doesn't really matter. You should be able to see what it is because you got it dealt to you. Can you see it? You, okay, you as long as you can see what the value of it is, that's fine. So just keep it in there. You've got like sort of a floating random Benny going around there. Dave, I'm going to roll just against you to see how quick my quickness is. And bounty hunters are pretty good at being quick. So we're going to roll and add... 3. And you had a -2?
Makes me think that I should...
Well, here's the thing.
Actually...
If you drop a fate... If you drop a... Where's your roll? How bad was it? No, it wasn't bad enough to... It wasn't bad enough to re-roll. But if you threw a... You need to throw at least 2 aspects at it to... get it to where it's not a success with style is the thing. That's the only problem. Not that you couldn't. I'm just saying what it's going to cost you.
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
Well, for one aspect, if you don't have one that'll work, there was the busy as a something on the other screen.
Let me switch that over for you real quick. I'm looking at that actually right now. So you can kind of do two things. You can actually throw a point at, and I'll switch it back over here off the chase so you guys can see it too. You can throw so you can compel that, or compel it. You can pay a fate point to activate that and push their roll down because they got to work with the crowd. You're struggling
to work through the
yeah, and then you could use one of your own to push yourself up, and that would make up. I mean, it's still 2 fate points, but you're
sure.
Yeah. What have you got on your?
Sure. Let's.
How are you? What are you invoking on yourself to push yourself up while you're pushing them down?
An officer and occasionally bloodthirsty gentleman.
So are you throwing elbows? Is that what's happening here?
I am throwing the minimal number but effective number of elbows to get to where I need to go.
Okay. All right. I can acknowledge that. That's at least minimizing the damage from this. So that pushes their result back down from a painful.
So I need to drag those. I need to drag those out.
Yeah, dump them out onto the desktop there, please, and I will dispose of them in the manner of my people. That pushes their result back down to a 1 and yours up to a 0. So they just get a success, and that moves her a little bit close. So we're getting, it's kind of difficult. All right, so they are pursuing. We've kind of lost track of the Mandalorian. Lieutenant's there.
That's never good.
And Dave, I'm going to ask you who you think should be the next person to go. Do you think backup should be the next person to go? We're going to do what do they call that? Whatever, narrative. The narrative handoff for initiative. You want to hand off to backup or the bad guys? Because that's the last 2 people, or that's sort of the next 2 people that makes sense to me.
Let's hand off to the bad guys so that we'll have backup as the backup.
Nice.
I want to see what they do anyway. Yeah.
Say that one more time.
I want to see what the bad guys do next as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now they don't have the normal approaches that you guys do. They have things that they're good at and things that they're bad at because they're NPCs, and I don't feel like detailing all of them. They are but they are very good at one thing, at a few things, and one of the things that they're really good at is shooting and shouting. The Imperial officer is moving through the crowd and basically, screaming about Imperial authority. People are trying to clear the way. The girl, the female, the woman bounty hunter there simplifies things considerably more by pulling out a couple of blasters and just like unloading into the air to get people to scatter out of their way. This would be, if you were a PC, a forceful approach. What they're doing is just rolling and
or flashy.
Adding. It could be flashy too. What they're doing is just being violent, which they're, kind of good at. Now, this can be opposed by anybody. I'm rolling and I come up with a 0. But somebody needs to oppose this roll. There's there's a number of different options here in terms of how to do that. Doesn't take much. You might be able to defend well enough to give yourself a boost or some sort of aspect on the scene that you might be able to use too. And really, backup could step in and do this, or
I actually want to nominate Kelvin's
security thing.
Kelvin was just haranguing the station security.
Right.
Yes.
Now they're shooting.
Fire in the promenade.
And down.
But his prescient now.
I'm telling you, blast doors. Close the blast doors on the promenade. We need to lock people out. That could, we have terror. We have violent activity that could get near the ships. There's volatile. There's, you can't have blasters going off near volatile cargo. there's any number of regulations is going to get you investigated by everybody from from Nalhutta all the way down to Coruscant. You don't want this, and I have your name and operating number. Blah 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 blah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, why don't you throw forceful at it? Or
Okay. Do I get my benefit for haranguing them with regulations?
yes, it's a defensive thing, so you're probably not going to move her, but you could definitely end up with a sort of successful style and give your hand off. You could easily hand off an aspect to backup in this one. That's going to be
if he's
an
doing,
advantage.
If it's an actual defense, successful style will give you a boost. So
Right, you could definitely hand off an advantage to. Holy buckets! Damn. Okay, so
Yeah, I think I got that.
I take it back. I'm actually going to move Dana a little bit closer to the ship as a result of that. Okay, so for those of you watching along at home, I don't actually have the sidebar showing because it's too much. So that was the bounty hunters rolling a 0 for clearing out the traffic, and Kelvin countering with a 7 for a. Basically, the guy just gives up and closes like every blast door between any of the immediate blast doors anywhere near the shooting, between the promenade area and the open docks, and conveniently between these guys and Dana. So they're going to have to route around. And what kind of aspect do you want to put on the scene, Kelvin?
Let's go with since the blast doors closed on them. Path.
Say that again.
No clear path.
No clear path. Okay. So
Back have to be a little circuitous for them.
Right. And backup, I'm handing off to you.
Okay. So we still got a big crowd milling around here, right?
The crowd, I mean, there wasn't a ton of traffic headed straight to the ships, but there's certainly some, and they're more like, they're definitely milling now because all the blast doors came down. You know how they close. They don't screw around.
And given the volume of dangerous looking people here, I imagine that there's maybe several blasters coming out of unusual places.
That's where I'm going next.
Yeah, everyone's...
I kind of want to take advantage of the crowd and cause trouble for myself at the same time. I want to say that backup is kind of like moving real fast to the crowd to hide himself. He wants to get a shot at the bounty hunters, the lieutenant. He's going to grab a couple blasters from people around him.
Okay.
And fire on these guys with those weapons, and then try to disappear back into the crowd. Whoever he stole from or people around him will notice. So he's going to get himself in trouble that way.
So we're not being sneaky about this, although we may be. Oh boy. Are we flashy, or is that what we're seeing here? Is this more like just a quick, like just acting right off the cuff kind of a thing, and just grabbing it out of their holster before they can react and going? I don't see sneaky because you're not being subtle about it. They're seeing it. Mm-hmm. It feels quick to me.
Yep.
Okay, because you're not trying to draw attention to yourself. I don't think flashy.
Right.
And everything you guys do is clever, so we can't really go that way.
Forceful?
No. Probably not. I'm going to go with quick. Okay. And you've got a free invoke on the no clear path thing, because everyone's milling around. These guys aren't moving. They kind of created their own situation here because they blasted up into the air. So everyone's kind of panicky and milling around, and now they can't move. So
is this an overcome action, by the way? And the reason I ask is I've got a second stunt. Because I learned rough and ready tricks in the field, +2 to quickly overcome a problem by improvising when someone else's plan has already failed. We've seen two failures so far. Arrow was trying to get to our girl and got lost in this same crowd. So now I'm turning the crowd to my advantage. If you're not sure, say no.
I see that coming in when like there's no current like beneficial aspects on the field for you guys, and unfortunately, Kelvin just sort of handed you one.
That's fair.
That's a really good thing to yank out when you're like we've expended all of our free kind of invoke kind of things, and we don't really, we don't have nobody's handed anything, and you can go, aha, but
Okay.
That's when I step up.
So quick of one, I'll go ahead and use the boost. I have no reason not to.
Absolutely. And we'll switch back over there and.
Okay.
Whoop, scrolling the wrong direction. 3. Very nice. Very nice.
That would be 5.
No, that's yeah. No, you're right. 5 including the boost, because it's
right.
The roll as a take then.
Right, and I'm just let me see what we got here.
Yeah, 2 plus.
Very nice. Yeah.
Blank.
That's a lot.
And then +1 is 3.
All right.
So total of 5.
Total of 5, and I'm going to be resisting with, I don't think much. Because they're sort of, you're not shooting to.
I'm shooting to distract. I'm shooting to give them something else to worry about.
Okay, so you're for all intents and purposes, you're setting up another, basically creating an obstacle by creating advantages. Something that they're going to have to overcome. Resistance, for all intents and purposes. It's kind of like setting up a barrier, except we don't have that in Fate Core anymore. So we create advantage and then use it to compel. Or passive resistance. So I'm just going to resist with a flat old nothing. 0, and I get a 1 against that 5. Still leaves you.
I'm 4 up.
Yeah, so it leaves you doing a create advantage and succeeding with style. So basically, you've got 2 free invokes on this, or for all intents and purposes, like 2 free resistances to this. So what's the aspect? Panicked crowd. Heads down, cover fire.
I'm going to go with the short succinct. Who's shooting?
I love it. All right, so yeah, they basically like. Well, one of the first combat moves that the Empire ever teaches their lieutenants is duck and cover. So he just finds the nearest civilian to hide behind, and then like crawls over behind a random vendor's table. The bounty hunters are obviously, they're used to getting shot at, but they do find cover initially. People are shrieking a little bit, but and that certainly makes it difficult. So they can't see where the shots came from. They were the only people shooting in the area, and that's changed, and they're not at all happy about this, because this went from chasing an unarmed woman through the station to being shot at, and that generally makes anybody grumpy. And these guys start out grumpy. That's sort of their default setting. So yeah, any action that they take in terms of pursuit, you've got a couple of free invokes to just kind of, you could passively resist the next couple of things just to let you guys know, nobody needs to specifically roll against the next couple of things, because you could just passively resist with the aspects that backup just set up for you. Are you moving now that you've done that? Are you doing that and then like kind of retreating, hit and move?
Oh, yeah, this was a total hit and run type of scenario.
Do you give the blasters back, or you just dump them, or do you just bring them with you?
I'll bring them with me. I mean, you can never be too armed.
And you're down a couple of thermal detonators, so that's really, I mean, you're practically naked at this point.
They came out of nowhere and they went right back to the same place. So yeah.
Okay, great. Practically naked. All right, so that's. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you want 2 free invokes, or do you want 1 free invoke and move Dana?
I think the 2 free invokes are going to be better. I want someone else to bring this home.
Okay. Sounds good.
I was not the sort of person who's going to win this, but I want this last push to be real decisive.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good idea. Who are you handing off to?
Who has a good idea for how to wrap this up and or make progress? I'm asking for volunteers, because I'm not sure who's got a good idea of where to go next.
Akan's kind of got the ship warmed up, but that's not really helping you guys get moving. Alir hasn't.
I feel like I'm kind of stuck where I am in terms of helping the movement.
Alir hasn't done anything recently. She could maybe steer some people and get them moving in the right direction to actually sync up with each other.
Okay, let's do that.
Alir. Catherine's like, damn it, I don't have a good idea. Ugh. I saw that eye roll.
What eye roll?
You did this like you did that.
That is the innate 15-year-old face.
I know.
It's natural. It just is there.
Resting flustered face. Okay.
So you had a stunt idea, Catherine?
No, that was just clarification.
Ah.
Okay, so what do you think?
I don't really know.
I don't know how to bring her home, but I really would like to find out where that Mandalorian is.
That
If there's some way that you can push to determine that.
possibly.
You could certainly do a. I think it's going to have to be quick again, because he's on the move and you're trying to like scan dozens of security cameras. Kind of annoyingly though, there aren't nearly. You don't often think this, but you're used to working on Coruscant. There aren't nearly enough security cameras on this station. I mean, there are gaps all over the place. It's almost like people have purposely like sabotaged stuff and they haven't been like instantaneously replaced the next day. It's crazy.
How dare they?
How dare they? Indeed.
So, quick roll?
Yeah, why don't you give me a quick. See if you can find that guy. He's not affected by the.
Press it.
Try press. Oh, there we go. Quick 2. All right, I'm going to be opposing that with my.
Oh.
All right, I'm going to stick with the 2. I'm going to be opposing that with.
Sneaky?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've got him, and you've got him on the docking ring, which initially fills you with a certain amount of panic. But then you're checking location, and he's nowhere near you. He's almost. If you're at the 6 on the clock, he's somewhere around on 2. If he's
at the wrong ship.
He's no.
What ships are docked? What ships are docked in that area?
Dun, 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 dun. The one that he's getting on. Uno momento, and I will show you.
Ah.
He is. Well, hang on. Really? All right. Okay. He. That it? No. I'm just going to paste it into the chat window so you guys can see it because it's easy. It's quicker than doing it literally any other way. And those of you who are watching the recording have seen me pull it up on the web, so you've already seen it. Here, is it going to go there? Sure. Did that work? Somebody click on that and tell me if the link actually worked.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like it.
That's fun.
So yeah, he's getting onto that and doesn't seem to be in any particular rush. He's going up the ramp. The ramp's closing. You're seeing lights coming on. It looks like he's winding up to leave.
Is there some way I can
do some sort of security lockdown kind of thing?
Yeah, keep him from leaving.
You can.
It would be a real shame if the records showed he hadn't paid his docking fees or something.
You can try. That's not gonna. That's not gonna be easy. But you can certainly give it a shot.
But the Hutts really hate deadbeats.
The Hutts do really hate deadbeats. He I'm not without my own recourse in that situation, but you can give it a try. You can mess with him. There are worse things.
You don't have to mess with him. You just have to mess with the.
You just have to mess with the docking.
The docking fee accounts.
You can give it a shot.
Decimal over.
Yeah. Zero a couple things out. I'm suddenly picturing Ferris.
Post-date the check.
I'm suddenly picturing Ferris Bueller changing the number of absences that he's had this semester. All right, we've already had a roll, but why don't you give me one more? In this case, yuck.
That's not an approach.
Yeah, I know.
Clever.
Sneaky.
I kind of want to go with forceful because she's sort of just slamming this into place in the last minute. I realize it's kind of quick too, but it's not. We could go with sneaky. Yeah, let's go with sneaky. We're trying we got some subterfuge. We can go with sneaky. I should look and see what you guys. Man, I should have said forceful. Your forceful's terrible.
Well, that's what fate points are for.
Or flashy. Yeah, I haven't. What do we get here? Got a 3. Okay. So we got a couple options here. I'm going to roll first. We got a tie. You want to succeed at cost? Basically, you succeed, but there's gonna be side effects. What I'm saying is, I'll let you have it, but there'll be unforeseen consequences. Nothing major. I'm not. That's what major consequences are. What happen when? Well, no, major consequences are what happen when you fail, like properly fail, and I say you can succeed if you want to. I'll let you have it. And then you decide whether or not that's worth it to you.
I think it might be a good idea just to keep him from opposing us outside.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of worrying about here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can see.
I'll just go and wait for the next ship to be fleeing at high speed.
He appears to be exiting the station in a heavily armed gunship and swinging around the station. I don't know what he's doing. So weird. Okay, so yeah, you keep him like he's asking you when the request comes through for permission to undock. You are they're coming back with denials because certain paperwork hasn't been filled out or anything. I could drop a fate point and go with the Hutt controlled security system because this guy is in very well with the Hutts and keep him from messing with you. But I'm fine with leaving him in dock for a little bit like that. And the downside to that is that he's going to know that somebody was purposely screwing with him. And with a little bit of time, he's probably going to be able to sort out at least what ship, if not who. But that's fine. That's fine for now. That's going to float out there as something that he knows that he's going to know that this woman had help for one thing. All right. So that's Catherine. And who are you handing off to? Probably not Margie, unfortunately.
No.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Kelvin's got a
Yep, I think I got something.
Okay.
Go for it. If not, then I've got a couple of ideas.
Okay.
All right. So I think
I've got you mentally. I've got you outside the ship, but kind of like at a public terminal or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So now that I see that they're kind of within striking distance of getting to the ship,
I
think it's more of, okay, we have this, crowd of people milling about. I think it's time to just, clear a path through them.
Okay.
So it's going to be More like, all right, people, we got a really big, cargo container coming through here. We're gonna need room, and just sort of trying to direct traffic.
So you're kind of doing the Home Depot where the gates are going up and the I just love the idea of you getting into a forklift and backing it down the thing so it makes the beeping noise and everybody like, beep. Oh.
Mm-hmm. And yes, we'll go with that.
Okay.
I would say that's probably flashy.
Yes, let's go with flashy. I like flashy. I have no idea. For those keeping track at home, I'm not even looking at anybody's character sheets before I say yes to these things. I'm just going with what makes the most sense. What do we get?
I got a 1 flashy and I got a +1. I don't like just having that +2, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and invoke our we're rebels, not anarchists aspect.
Okay, we're not.
Order tech.
So you're bringing in order. I like that. We're rebels. We're not anarchists.
Yeah.
Okay, so that pushes it up to a 4, which I'm just going to kind of passively resist here with. I'm just going to roll straight up and see if I got anything that's odds of this. Okay, so that gives you a regular success, and that moves Dana in here. Because what you find out about this Hutt station is that nobody really listens to people in charge who are giving orders. You do manage to make some headway. That you do manage to clear some people out, but other people are like, "I'm loading here. I have a deadline, and I don't really care."
And I think I missed it. Did we still have my 2 invokes sitting around?
Oh, you do. You could.
Yes.
You could throw that.
I was going to say, if not that, I actually did have another fate points expenditure in mind if it wasn't too late.
What was that?
To kind of push it over the top. But if we still have the boost, I'll totally use the boost.
Okay. Now the boost was who's shooting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can combine that because basically between the people, there's two groups of people here. There's actually 3 groups of people. There's still going to be a small group of people that don't care. But there's a group of people who are like, oh, the guy said get out of the way. He sounds like he knows what he's doing. He's standing on top of a crate. I'm going to listen to him and get out of the way. There's the other group of people who are like, there is shooting happening somewhere in my zip code, and I'd like to get the hell out of here. So they're gone. And that gets you up and moves her another notch. There's still that other group of people who are like, I have a deadline. But that's not significant enough to really slow things down. And it looks like maybe Dave's got the means of pushing this home. That was actually a really remarkably good roll for just a naked die roll on my part. Oh, Hutt Station, you're just so hard to manage.
I just can't quit you.
I just can't quit you. Crazy old KWENN Station.
So, it off to me, or am I?
Yeah.
Taking it home.
Take it home. Bring us home, Dave, if you can.
Well, I think I know how to sort of boost the effect of.
If you want, you can. We can assume that you can actually see her from here too. So she's got to be getting close at this point.
My inclination at this point is to. In as flashy and dramatic a fashion as possible, shout, "My God, mad forklift!"
Really? Are you actually releasing a mad forklift?
No, but the people who have been going like, yeah, forklift, they can wait for me to get out of the way.
Okay, I just come running through. Like, are you doing like a Kermit down through the like? Ah!
Runaway forklift!
He's gone mad!
Can I have a quick show of hands? How many people are watching Rebels? I know Dave and Catherine are. All right. It just for those of you who aren't, if you ever have to decide one way, it may be the most accurate. How should I put this? If they were going to make a show specifically meant to call to mind an old Star Wars West End Games role-playing game, it's Rebels. It's written by a guy who actually wrote some modules for West End Games back in the day, and It's ridiculous. But when Dave, you're describing, there's a scene in one of the more recent episodes where there's a speaker that's like, everyone to the escape pods. And most of the people, when they hear everyone to the escape pods, we need, abandon ship. And like you see like them looking up like, what the hell is he talking about? And in the background, you see one stormtrooper doing 100-meter dash, just whoa! He doesn't look around. He doesn't check. Somebody's at escape pods and abandoned ship, and his ass is gone. I rewound it just so I could watch it like 3 times because it was so funny. Anyway.
And eventually he will be the oldest stormtrooper left.
Yes, he will be one of the senior. He'll be a commander. Captain Runaway. Dave, why don't you give me a flashy roll and we'll see. You're just absolutely trying to clear the deck and leave her a red carpet right back to the ship. So see how flashy you can be.
Yes.
I'm going to resist with. I don't know if I'm going to throw a fate point at this, but I'm definitely going to resist with the Hutt station's ability to not really care. Ooh.
And just as a reminder again,
it cares a whole lot.
Every scene, not every session.
What's that? Say that again.
Just a reminder, the GM gets their fate point allocation every scene, not every session.
Right. That's a lot of fate points I have to throw at this to not.
Just saying.
I know. Okay, Dave, here's what I'm going to do. I can't even remember how. Funny thing is, I use fate points relatively infrequently, so I'm not actually sure off the top of my head how many I'm supposed to get per scene. You talk about that. So let me look at something real quick. What are my station aspects here? It is busy. It is crawling with Imperials. Okay. Oh, Dave. Okay. So what I'm going to do, because you only need to move it 1 slot, and I kind of moved her over there. Okay, but you have 2 options here. So what I'm going to invoke is busy as a Genosian hive and crawling with Imperials as stormtroopers start to flood into the docking ring from various locations that aren't blocked by the blast doors. But that just leaves us tied. Dave, would you like to succeed at cost? Or do you want to throw some fate?
Do we still have a thing floating out there? Yeah, we have 2. We only used 1.
We do have another one there. You can invoke that. I'm gonna, because I've dropped like 4 fate points here. I'm gonna say that I'm kind of out. So if you want to invoke cleanly, if not,
You're screw Dave.
Say that again.
You're breaking up badly,
Oh,
Doyce.
am I? I'm sorry.
Yes.
You want to invoke the thing?
Yes, I think so.
Because we still have another free invoke there. So that'll still, I can throw as much as I can at this thing, but at this point there isn't, I can get you up to a tie, but you've still got that free invoke sitting there. So that's about all we can do. And that's still going to be enough to push you up to getting her to the ship. So people are scattering out of the way. This is still happening though. The stormtroopers are into the docking ring. So everybody last few people clear out of the way. Dana's coming towards you. Backup is coming from, actually kind of coming from the opposite direction and heading towards the ship as you guys come into the docking ramp. Things are already winding up. You've already gotten clearance to depart. Catherine's actually playing some sort of digital whack-a-mole where the fee keeps getting logged and you keep resetting it to 0, and you just keep nope. He still hasn't paid.
Transfer the funds over to us instead of just resetting it to 0.
It's not particularly expensive docking fee, but yeah. She's working quick. She's not working pretty. Okay, so you guys jump into the ship. And did I hear somebody want to chime in with a thing?
I was going to say, while that's all happening, I figured, just to add a little bit of color to Kelvin probably, now that he no longer needs the forklift, has returned it back to its spot. And, while everybody else is running over, he plugs it back into the wall or wherever it charges at, and then just takes off, then takes off running.
What did you plug back in? I'm sorry, I was fiddling with
The
this.
forklift.
As
Tidily.
per procedure
Tidily.
SOP 39/47A.
You get off and you start to walk away and you turn to check and make sure it's inside of the yellow painted lines on the deck. Okay. Oh, I see what happened here. 1 second. I need to show you guys this, and we'll be right back.
I was gonna say, you can take the man out of the rule book, but not the rule book out of the man?
Probably.
So this bodes well for you guys. My dog, who's been quietly hanging out with me all night, has a chew toy that my wife got for him a while ago. That's like a Darth Vader chew toy. Mm-hmm. We have a Captain Phasma as well. I thought he was chewing on something else, but I turn around and he's got this weird, looks like a plastic. I thought it was a glass. It's the inside, and he managed to rip the entire bottom off this thing, pull the tube out. That's like the squeaker. Take the entire end off it, and there's bits of plastic everywhere. And he's just like la 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 la. So
that's how they could have defeated Vader.
Yes. So the Empire has lost twice tonight. Okay. So you guys pile into the ship and you pull skillfully away from the station and
maneuver around at the opposite side of where the Mandalorian ship is.
Fortunately, we already are on the opposite side.
So well, pretty close. It doesn't take much to get away.
And I won't burn rubber.
Where are you going?
Well, maybe we should talk to the our new guest here, because everyone else is going to Tatooine.
I say we don't go to Tatooine.
Everyone's going. We need to go to Tatooine.
Oh, really?
Yes, please, quickly. It's desperately important.
You and every bounty hunter in the sector.
I'll explain as soon as we're in hyperspace, but we need
a strong force coming from there.
There's a midichlorian fountain.
I was avoiding that.
Deleting all of Margie's fate points right now.
We've heard the Empire's tracked someone down there. We don't know who it is, but he's been described as a whiny kid.
He's not even a whiny. He's not even. This is 4 years before. He hasn't even learned how to be whiny yet.
No,
I think he was born whiny. It's genetically part of his being.
I actually read something not that long ago that where somebody had sort of wondered if the actor Hayden Christensen had actually purposely made Anakin played him a certain way so that it seemed as though Luke's whininess had been kind of an inherited trait. I'm like, I don't know if I want to credit him with that kind of acting choice, but anyway, so we can get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. As you bid farewell to KWENN Station. And let me pull up some stuff. So, boy, I honestly didn't think you were going to get her out alive. Well done. Not that I was particularly invested in it one way or the other. Bravo. Well done.
Brava.
So she first of all, thank you. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew I had to get off the ship because I'd already been kind of blown my cover a bit. They were already looking through the ship to figure out where the high burst transmission had come from, and I needed to get away. The where the heck is the, oh, there it is. Sorry. Looking up my source material. All my notes. So I've been stationed aboard the Relentless for the last 3 or 4 months. We've been just to gather intel on Imperial movements, that sort of thing. And in this particular case, the captain has been engaging pirates in nearby sectors, which is how we ended up here. One of the pirates that was captured and due to be executed bargained for his life with information that he thought the Emperor and the Empire would desperately want to know. And that information was that he had firsthand knowledge that Adar Talon is still alive and that this particular individual actually knows how and when he faked his death. Now, for those of you playing at home, and that is to say, all of you guys who are going, I don't know what any of this means. Dave, you would probably know this. Backup would definitely know this. Coruscant, all-comers trivia champion 3 years running would definitely know this. Alir, I'm not sure about anybody else. Adar Talon. Actually, let me see if I can just share this with everybody. Where is Mr. Oh, it's in my handouts thing that I have closed because I never need it. Show to players. Show to everyone. Did you guys just get a thing pop up on your screen?
Yep.
I want to make sure the technology works. Okay, so Adar Talon was a naval commander back in the Clone Wars. Very big deal. Technically served with the Galactic Empire after the Emperor declared himself emperor, after the Chancellor declared himself emperor. Not long after that happened, he was doing escorts in a Raider class patrol craft, not a full-on cruiser or anything like that. Came under attack by a heavily armed pirate force and bought the escape of the convoy that he was protecting by selling his ship, and the ship and all hands on board were destroyed by the pirate attack. Dove straight into the flagship, buying the civilian freighters time, blah, 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 blah. Battalion was obliterated, all hands on board. They erected a statue to him on Coruscant, and everyone assumed he was dead. Dave, you would know, and this isn't really common, and kind of it post-dates backups. Also, this was kind of above his pay grade, but at your level, Dave, you'd been aware of the fact that Talon was definitely on the outs. He was doing kind of like what you were, where he was raising doubts and voicing his opposition to the way the Empire was doing things, and that sort of thing. And so he was a very inconvenient war hero, and that everybody thought he was a damn genius and thought he was a hero, and he wasn't very pro-emperor at all. And conveniently, before anything bad had to happen to him, he died. Except apparently he didn't. So according to this pirate that was talking to the Relentless's captain, he is hiding out and has been for the last, what's it been, 10, 12 years on Tatooine, and wherever the hell that is. And now the captain knows that and is going to be heading there as soon as he can. And he's got, as we've already discussed, something like 2 squadrons of TIE fighters and dropships and AT-ATs and ATDPs and 2,000 stormtroopers to drop on the planet to bring this guy in. He is, in the agent's own words, just practically drooling at the prospect of hand delivering Admiral Talon to the Emperor personally. So he hasn't told,
and he's also sent the bounty hunters that
well
are
here
headed that way too.
So there's apparently there's a reason. Well, the logic,
or is there a security leak?
No, there isn't a security leak. He specifically he's been working this quadrant for a while, and he has a somewhat suspicious level of connection with sort of the darker side of business in these sectors. So he hunts pirates, but he also seems to have connections on the side of things where you would have bounty hunters. He doesn't apparently want to involve any more Imperial forces, and unfortunately, he can't get to Tatooine in short order because he has a damaged hyperdrive. That's legitimate. They're actually getting it worked on. So he contacted, through channels, a bunch of bounty hunters and sent them to bring in a Talon alive and have him in chains. What's that?
Reference jokes.
Okay. Bring him and have him basically in chains by the time the Relentless gets here, which you figure is going to be in probably 5 days, between the repairs and the fact that unless this guy is very desperate, it's going to take him 2 days to get there. And the reason to say that is because a straight line to Tatooine goes through Hutt space, and there's channels open for that. There's hyperspace routes that should be no problem for you guys to take that take you through Hutt space. An Imperial Star Destroyer does not get to just blithely go cruising through Hutt space. So he's going to have to go around, which is going to take him an extra day plus theoretically 3 days of repair. So that gives you a certain amount of time to... the problem is Tatooine really is on the ass end of nowhere. So you guys are sort of the only people that can get there and get to him first.
Does the captain have a name, just for reference?
Yes, he does.
He seems to be a mover in this.
Palin? I want to say Palin. P-A-L-A-N, I think. I'll have to look that up. But
Captain Palin.
Yep.
So why were all the other ships going to Tatooine?
Well, there's other
bounty hunters that he was sending.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Right, but he sort of hit his quota, which is why some were being turned away because they got there too late. They were like, okay, we've got enough.
Pulls up with a pickup truck, says you, and you.
You, but nobody else. But
Nobody else.
You're guessing that Tatooine is going to be crawling with bounty
veritable
hunters.
wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Indeed it will. Even the locals are going to be like, yeah. I can't. Yeah, I think it's Palin. I'll have to look it up. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it later. But I can't remember right off the top of my head. But yeah, we'll say Captain Palin for right now. Anyway, so that's what we got. You've got all of the forces that can be brought to bear in this ship, and we know what planet he's on. That should be enough, right?
No problem.
On the upside, if we can either protect him from the Empire or even better, bring him into the rebellion, it will be a rallying point that we have never had before. And if he may not be, if he just didn't see a way to resist the Emperor before we can provide him that, and we might be able to bring him in. And he starts to go into this sort of spiel that's strongly reminiscent of the kind of stuff that Akana
Is she drooling yet?
Well, she kind of goes in the way that Akana does sometimes, where Akana gets very how should I put this? Akana occasionally gets
enthusiastic.
I was going to say pamphlet-y. And
true believer.
She is a Agent Foss is a true believer in the truest sense of the word. Well,
it's glad to have her aboard. We need more people who can see the truth.
Okay.
Never fear, madam. We shall endeavor and we shall succeed.
Those two, the pilot and Miss Foss, are going to make the bridge basically uninhabitable for anybody else for the next day or so while you guys are flying. Margie, if you would make one more careful roll for me just to kind of see us off here, and we will slide the ship into hyperspace and call it a night. That's good enough. I'm not even.
That's nice.
No.
Good sound.
I'm not good at careful.
It's
I'm
the-
good at the forceful departure.
It's the end. It's the end of the session, and you've got 3 fate points. You are going to make the roll. I'm just, you know.
How is the ship still in one piece?
Actually, so here's what happened. You
idea.
totally. It's like you get it into you start to do it into hyperspace, and it's like you got it all. It's like, okay, these are the coordinates. It's a standard hyperspace route. I basically have got this stuff all recorded. You punch it in, and it goes and you punch the, you know, you do that thing where you punch the panel, and it goes and takes off, which sounds great until you realize that back where Calvin is sitting, 3 breakers just threw with like major sparks. You're like, see, I told you.
My Twitch now, it's like,
You're up there in the captain seat going, see, I told you it'd work. And it's like, and the guy and the agent sitting in the co-pilot, he's like, what's he shouting about? Oh, I don't know. He always does that when we go into hyperspace. I think it just makes him nauseous. Never
Maybe
actually.
we should send some barf bags back there.
Yeah, I think he just gets. Maybe I should warn him before we go into hyperspace first, or something like that. Meanwhile, you're like, no, shut it down, shut it all down. Need an astromech droid so badly. Okay, and that I think is that for. I'm just gonna. I'll stop recording. So that's session 1.